Hi, it's me again with CorelDraw Tips and Tricks. This is mainly more for a woodworker, but you might gain something out of it. He's got a laser, he's got a helix, and he's got a bench, and he's trying to create a pattern. And he says he's going to use acrylic. My suggestion would use 1/4 inch MDF. It's cheaper, it works great, and it's easier to bind it together because you've got a curve that's longer than your laser bit. Normally I do a picture, and I've got this one pretty close. He said it's 4 feet across. In this case, where it has to be perfectly fit on that piece of metal, I don't know that I would use the picture version. And because this picture is at a little bit of an angle, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but he'll be able to do this at home and with this. I'm going to go from that node to that node, and we've created a box. And so you know if this is at 0. And so what I would do is run a string line and get it really tight. I'm going to take away this line. And after you get the string line, go right to the middle and get your, well, you can do all this by not doing it in Corel, and just make your line. So we're going to say it's 3.4 inches. It's 3.39. And then in Corel, what I would do, and he's going to use a trim router bit on a router, and a trim router bit, the MDF will write on here. So if you have your piece of wood that looks like this, and then you have a 1/4 inch piece of MDF, and so we'll color this in, well, let's just use brown, and then this would be your wood that he's going to use he said he's going to use redwood. What happens is that your template will write on that bearing, and the bit will cut your shape out to the exact size. Now, I always take a bandsaw and cut it, within like 1/8 of an inch, so the router doesn't have to work so much, and you won't get as much chatter. But anyway, once you get your line and you know it's 4 feet, so we're going to draw a perpendicular line, and we're going to make it 48 inches. My number lock must have not been locked. I don't know why that does that sometimes. Let's try another line. There we go. My number lock was unlocked. So you've got the length of the bench, and we know that and I would do this in the center of the page. So let's hit P and put it in the center of the page, which I don't even know. I guess it's behind this bench. And what I would do is just delete all this other stuff. And I would make a duplicate line, 3.34 inches. Now that's not the exact measurement because I'm going off of a picture. I think he actually said it was like 2.25, but I'm going to go with 3.34. I'm going to make a duplicate of that, and I'm going to nudge it up. And because they're equal with each other, we can take this and grab it, double click on it, and add a node. And the node is right in the middle. Corel does that for us. So then I'm going to take a 3-point curve line and go from that node to that node, and then go straight up to that node, and there's your arch. Of course, that's only the top part, and so then you could take this line and whatever measurement he has and move it down twice, and basically do the exact same thing. Or let's just delete that line and move this line down. Well, I didn't make a duplicate. Control D to make a duplicate. Whoop. And there's your arch. Now let's take away this line. Take your, and you might want to cut this a little bit long. I'm just going to go from node to node. node to node. And there you have your arch. Should be perfect. I'm going to take the Smart Fill tool and fill that in. And what that did, that created a new object. So these lines are all together. Now his question is probably his main question is he's going to have to splice this. So my laser bed is 40 by 28. I'm going to make mine he has an epilogue helix, which is 24 by 18. And you can see that it won't fit in there. So what we can do, let's hit P, put it in the center of the page. Let's take a line, holding down the control button and hit P. Now that's not it is in the middle, but there's our two halves. But we need to put some sort of joint. You either can or cannot do. The joint would make it maybe a little bit easier. There's a number of things you could do. I'm just going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to hit P. Of course, I'm going to move it, and you might even want to do two of these. And then because we're working in the center of the page, I'm going to go to Object and convert that outline to an object. And then I'm going to set my nudge factor on with nothing selected, set my nudge factor on 0.25. I'm going to make this red in a hairline and make it red. And I am going to select these two nodes, actually all four of them, and add a node. And what that did, it added nodes right in the middle. I don't need these nodes, so I'm going to delete them. I've got my nudge factor set on, so also I'm going to select them all, right click and make sure they're aligned, which they are. Then I can grab that node and move it up 1/4 of an inch. Move this one down 1/4 of an inch. Move this one up 1/4 of an inch. Move this one down 1/4 of an inch. Now, so we have this is what would you call a dovetail. So what I would do now is take my one side, take the Smart Fill tool and fill that in. Well, you know what? I'm going to start over and make my nudge factor 6 inches. I'm going to take the Smart Fill tool and fill that in. And you might quite possibly want to make two of these, one here and one here. And then take your virtual segment delete key and delete these lines, and then make your other one. So if you made two, that would be really strong when let's make it a different color and then move it over. There's your joint. And if you had two of those, now, depending on, I would do this on a router table where the bit would actually be like this coming out of the table. So here's your table or your router base. So if you used a table, you could actually take another piece of MDF and glue it on top. That way you won't get any flex. But if you're using a router with just a router base, that wouldn't really work because it's going to hit that. So just be, thinking about that. If you have a router table, put it in a router table. That way your wood would be on the bottom, your MDF would be on the top, and you could put another piece of wood and glue it down, and it would make it more secure. But what I'm saying, if you're taking the router, it's going to hit that. So you can't do that if you're just using a handheld router. So if you put two of those joints and actually do the opposite, make one with the male here and the female here, but just do what I did, but do on the opposite. And get it pretty tight, and I would actually glue it together after you get it out of the laser. So now we're going to just see if you can check out the laser, and we have this piece. See, it still doesn't fit, but if you angle it, you can get it to fit, just perfectly. It'll fit inside your laser bed. Now, this is the reason I would say use the MDF. Because if you cut this out of acrylic, you're wasting a big piece of acrylic. MDF, you could buy a 4x8 you can buy a 4x8 sheet, but I buy it in 2x4 sheets. And you could always use that other wood for scrap. Anyway, I hope that gave him some ideas, and thank you for watching.